Sean Diddy Combs or people affiliated with him did something to you that caused you to have multi-organ failure?
I believe this to be the case, yes.
You think you know the whole story about Diddy because you watched the new documentary produced by 50 Cent. You saw the headlines and the raids and the lawsuits. Everyone is talking about The Reckoning on Netflix and what 50 Cent revealed. But there is a massive piece of the puzzle that is missing. There is a voice that has been silenced for years. That voice belongs to Al B. Sure, and he is finally screaming the truth. The origin of the beef you never knew about. To understand why Al B. Sure is so angry, you have to go back in time to the early 1990s where the bad blood started. It started in a recording studio in New York. Al B. Sure was a huge star with platinum hits, and Kim Porter was his girl. They were in love and had a beautiful baby boy named Quincy. They were a power couple before the term even existed. Then there was this young guy named Sean Combs, who was just an intern back then. He carried luggage and did the grunt work. He was nobody compared to Al B. Sure, but he was hungry and ambitious. Al B. Sure tells a story about a specific day in the studio when he was working on music. Kim Porter was there, holding baby Quincy in her arms. Puffy walked in and saw Kim holding the baby. He said loud enough for people to hear that he wished he had a girl like that. It was like he was marking his territory. Al B. Sure says that was the moment everything changed and the target was put on his family. Diddy wanted what Al B. Sure had. He wanted the girl and the family and the life. Fast forward a few years and Al B. Sure and Kim split up. Diddy swooped in and started dating Kim when Quincy was just 3 years old. He took over the role of father and became the face of the family. He raised Quincy like his own son. Al B. Sure watched from the sidelines as the intern, who used to carry his bags, became the most powerful man in hip-hop and the new father figure to his son. That has to hurt, but Al B. Sure stayed quiet for a long time to keep it cordial for Quincy. But now he is saying that silence was a mistake. He is saying that Diddy did not just steal his family, but he destroyed it. The tragic day that changed everything, we need to talk about November 15th, 2018. This is the day the story turns dark because this is the day Kim Porter was found dead. The official story that you heard on the news said she had the flu. They said she was feeling sick for a few days with a sore throat and a fever that went up to 102 degrees. She was taking antibiotics and drinking soup and Gatorade. She went to bed and never woke up. The coroner said it was lobar pneumonia, which means it was a natural death. That is what the Netflix documentary accepts and what the news reported. But Al B. Sure says that is a lie. He says Kim Porter was healthy and vibrant. He says a woman who is 47 years old and in good shape does not just drop dead from pneumonia in 2018. She had access to the best doctors in the world and had money for the best care. How does someone like that die in her sleep from a lung infection? Al B. Sure believes there was something else going on. He talks about the scene where she was found. The police report says there were bottles of water and sports drinks and a bowl of tomato soup on the nightstand. It looks like someone who was just trying to get better, but some people think that scene looks too perfect. They call it staging. They think it was set up to make it look like she was sick, so nobody would ask questions. There is something even more disturbing. Al B. Sure says Kim reached out to him before she died. He says she was scared and told him to watch his back. He says she warned him that something was not right with Diddy and said his soul had gone completely dark. Why would she say that, and what did she know? The mystery of the original notes. This brings us to the biggest secret that Al B. Sure says 50 Cent left out. The original notes. Al B. Sure claims that Kim Porter was writing everything down because she knew she was in danger. She knew too much about the industry and Diddy, so she kept a diary and had notes on her phone. She put everything on a flash drive. This flash drive is like the holy grail of this mystery. Al B. Sure says it contains the proof of what was really happening behind closed doors, with the names and dates and crimes. But nobody knows where it is. Al B. Sure says that right after Kim died, people rushed to her house not to mourn, but to scrub the evidence. He says someone got the passcodes to her devices and wiped her phone and took the computer. He says the original notes disappeared. You might have heard about a book that came out recently called Kim's Lost Words that was sold on Amazon. It claimed to be the diary of Kim Porter and had wild stories in it about Al B. Sure and Diddy. But here is the twist, because Al B. Sure says that book is fake. He even sent a legal letter to stop it from being sold and called the lies in it disgusting. If Al B. Sure says Kim had a diary, then why does he say the book is fake? Here is the theory. The real notes are still missing. The The book that came out was a decoy full of lies mixed with maybe a little truth to confuse everyone. It was put out there to make the idea of a diary look like a joke. If everyone thinks the diary is fake, then nobody will look for the real one. It is a classic spy move to discredit the evidence by releasing fake evidence. Al B. Sure insists the real information is out there, and he says that is why Kim was silenced, because she was about to expose the truth. The medical mystery no one can explain. Now we get to the part that makes this story truly terrifying. It is the part that convinced Al B. Sure that he was next on the hit list. It was July 2022, which was 4 years after Kim died. Al B. Sure was working on new music in the studio when suddenly he collapsed and hit the floor. He woke up 2 months later. He was in a coma for weeks and almost died. His organs were shutting down and his kidneys and liver failed. He was on a ventilator and had to have a tracheotomy, which means they cut a hole in his throat so he could breathe. The doctors were ready to give up and were talking about hospice because they thought he was gone, but he fought back and survived. He got a liver transplant and now has a massive scar on his chest that he calls the chevron. The doctor said it was fungal pneumonia. You need to pay attention to that word, pneumonia. Kim Porter died of lobar pneumonia, and Al B. Sure almost died of fungal pneumonia. Al B. Sure says this is not a coincidence. What are the odds that two healthy people who are parents of the same son and connected to the same powerful man would both get struck down by a sudden and rare type of severe pneumonia? Al B. Sure does not believe it was nature. He believes it was a weapon. He has posted about this on social media, talking about toxins and biological agents. He says there are ways to make someone sick that look like natural causes. He says if you put certain fungal spores in the air vents or in the food, you can cause exactly this kind of illness. He says he was targeted and there was a bounty on his head. He believes someone paid to have him taken out, and they used the same method they used on Kim. This is the bombshell he wanted the documentary to cover. He wanted 50 Cent to investigate the link between the two pneumonias and ask why the people who know Diddy's secrets end up with lung failure. But the documentary did not touch it. It talked about parties and fights and money, but it did not talk about fungal pneumonia or poisons. The 50 Cent censorship. Al B. Sure is calling it censorship. He says 50 Cent and the producers are scared to go there. Accusing a celebrity of bad parties is one thing, but accusing a celebrity of using biological weapons to kill the mother of his children is a whole different level. That is heavy and dangerous. Al B. Sure says he has spoken to the feds and Homeland Security. He says the raid on Diddy House was not just about the things you heard on the news, but they are looking into everything. He hints that he is a witness and says he is the only one left alive who knows the whole truth. He posted a message that said, "I am the only one left," and he feels like a survivor of a war. He believes the documentary was sanitized, and they took the safe route by focusing on the things that are already in the lawsuits. They focused on the things that are easy to prove, but left out the deep dark conspiracy and the murder mystery. By leaving it out, they are helping to hide it. That is what Al B. Sure believes. He thinks that by ignoring the medical mystery, the documentary is actually protecting the people who did it by controlling the narrative. It makes people think the worst thing Diddy did was be abusive, but Al B. Sure is saying it is much worse. It is life and death. The silent hostage? There is one person stuck right in the middle of this war, and that is Quincy Brown. Quincy is Al B. Sure's biological son, but he calls Diddy Pops. He grew up in Diddy House and lived a bad boy lifestyle. When the raids happened, Al B. Sure posted a heartbreaking letter to his son. He wrote, "Come home because the door is wide open and you are safe here, son." He called himself Pops Your Biological. It was a plea because he believes his son is trapped. He calls it being in the Matrix. He thinks Quincy has been brainwashed by the money and the power and feels like he owes Diddy everything. Imagine being Quincy, where your biological father is saying your adopted father tried to kill him and killed your mother. But your adopted father gave you a career and a life of luxury. It is a nightmare position to be in. Al B. Sure says the documentary failed Quincy too, because it did not show the psychological pressure or the fear. It just showed the glitz and the glamour. Al B. Sure looks at his son and sees a hostage. He sees a young man who is afraid to speak up and might be next. The evidence we can see. So what is the truth here? Is Al B. Sure telling the truth, or is he just grieving? Let us look at the facts we have. Kim died of pneumonia, which was ruled natural, but Al B. Sure claims poison. Al fell into a coma from fungal pneumonia, which was ruled natural, but he claims it was a targeted attack. The flash drive was never mentioned officially, but Al says it was stolen evidence. The book on Amazon was fake, but Al says real notes exist. The similarities are hard to ignore with 2 pneumonias in 2 healthy people with one shared connection, and there is the timeline. Kim died right before she was supposedly going to write a book. Al B. Sure fell into a coma right when he started speaking up about Kim. Al B. Sure says the most expensive PR campaign in history was launched to shut him up. He says they tried to make him look crazy and bitter and jealous. But he says look at the scar and the medical records. You cannot fake a liver transplant or a coma. Someone or something did that to him. He is willing to testify and says he is ready to go to court. He says he has subpoena papers and is not hiding. He is shouting from the rooftops. What comes next? The documentary is over and the credits have rolled, but the story is not finished. Al B. Sure is writing his own book called Do You Believe Me Now? He promises to tell the whole story and name names and expose the things that 50 Cent censored. He wants justice for Kim Porter and for himself, and he wants to save his son. The world is watching Diddy, and the feds are watching Diddy. But maybe we should be listening to Al B. Sure, because maybe he is the key to the whole thing. He survived the coma and the silence, and now he is ready to war. The 50 Cent documentary was just the appetizer. Al B. Sure says the main course is coming, and it is going to be hard to swallow. Is Al B. Sure telling the truth? Did 50 Cent leave out the most important part of the story to protect the industry? Is there a connection between the 2 pneumonias? Or is this just a grieving father looking for answers? One thing is for sure, Al B. Sure is not going away. He has a second chance at life, and he is using it to fight. The data they don't want you to see. Let us break down the medical side of this, because this is where Al B. Sure says the smoking gun is. Fungal pneumonia is not like the regular flu. It comes from breathing in spores, and usually you get it if you have a very weak immune system, or if you are in a place with a lot of mold or bird droppings. Al B. Sure was a healthy, active man. He says we need to look at the symptoms. He had sudden collapse and multiple organ failure and sepsis. His oxygen levels dropped to 20%, and doctors were baffled at the speed of his decline. Does that sound like a regular sickness to you? Al B. Sure says no. It sounds like poisoning. And then look at Kim. She thought she had the flu, but she deteriorated so fast. She went into cardiac arrest and her lungs filled up. Al B. Sure points out that there are chemical agents that can mimic natural diseases. He questions why the autopsy for Kim was done so quickly and closed so fast. He questions why his own illness was brushed off as just bad luck. He says 50 Cent knows this, and everyone in the industry knows this. They whisper about it at parties. They ask if you heard what happened to Al and Kim, but nobody says it on camera or puts it in a documentary, because if you say it on camera, you might be next. That is why Al B. Sure says he is brave, because he is putting a target on his back again. He is daring them to come for him again. The flash drive that could burn it all down. Let us go back to that flash drive that Kim Porter supposedly filled with evidence. Al B. Sure describes it as the ultimate insurance policy. Kim knew who Diddy really was. She saw the violence and money laundering and trafficking. Al B. Sure says she wrote it all down and recorded conversations and took pictures. Imagine what is on that drive. It could bring down half the music industry and send people to jail for life. Al B. Sure believes that drive is still out there. He thinks maybe someone loyal to Kim hid it, or maybe the people who scrubbed the house destroyed it. But as long as there is a chance that drive exists, Diddy and his crew can never sleep soundly. And that is why the fake book was so important. By releasing a fake diary, they made the idea of a diary seem stupid. They made people laugh at it and made the news call it a hoax. It was a brilliant move if you are trying to hide the truth. But Al B. Sure saw right through it and called it out immediately. He said that is not Kim book, but the real notes are real. He is playing a dangerous game of chess to force the truth out without getting killed. Al B. Sure is asking the fans to do their own research and look past the Netflix show. He wants you to connect the dots. He posts cryptic messages on Instagram and uses hashtags like effect mode and biorhythm. He speaks in code sometimes, but the message is always the same. He says he knows the truth, and they tried to kill him, and they killed Kim, and he wants to save his son. The timeline of terror. Let us look at the dates one more time because the timing tells its own story. In 2018, Kim Porter dies, and Al B. Sure is devastated and starts asking questions. In 2020, Al B. Sure starts posting more aggressively about the murder of Kim Porter and starts talking about the notes. In July 2022, Al B. Sure collapses and goes into a coma and is near death. In late 2022, he wakes up and realizes he survived and sees the chevron scar. In 2023, Diddy faces lawsuits and Cassie speaks up. In 2024, Homeland Security hits Diddy house with raids. In 2025, the documentary comes out and Al B. Sure says you missed the biggest part. Do you see the pattern? Every time Al B. Sure got close to the truth, something happened. Every time the heat turned up on Diddy, someone got hurt. Al B. Sure says this is proof, and the timeline is the evidence. Now that Diddy is locked up, Al B. Sure feels safer, but not safe enough. He knows Diddy has reached even from behind bars. He knows there are other people involved who are not in the documentary and are still walking free. There is one detail that Al B. Sure mentions that is very specific, and that is Homeland Security. Usually when you hear about rappers getting raided, it is the FBI or the DEA. But Homeland Security is different because they deal with human trafficking and terrorism and threats to the nation. Al B. Sure says the fact that Homeland Security is involved proves that this is bigger than just a music mogul behaving badly. He hints that there is an intelligence angle. He hints that maybe Diddy was involved in things that threatened national security or crossed international borders in a way that got the big dogs involved. He says he warned us and told Quincy to call Homeland Security years ago. The documentary mentions the raids, but treats them like a police bus. Al B. Sure says it was a rescue mission. He views the feds as the good guys who finally stepped in to stop the machine. He aligns himself with the law and says he is a patriot fighting for what is right. It is a strange position for an R&B singer, but Al B. Sure has lived a strange life and seen things that would make your hair stand up. The final word. We may never know for sure what happened in that bedroom in Toluca Lake, or exactly what spore entered Al B. Sure lungs, but we know that Al B. Sure believes it was murder and attempted murder, and he believes that 50 Cent and the documentary team failed to tell that story. They censored the fear and the biological threat. They censored the possibility that Diddy is not just a gangster, but a mastermind who can reach you without ever touching you. Al B. Sure is the witness who refused to die, and the father who refuses to give up. He is the man who is exposing the holes in the official story. You watched The Reckoning, but now you know the rest. Al B. Sure is still standing. As long as he has breath in his lungs that were healed by a miracle, he is going to keep speaking the name of Kim Porter. He is going to keep calling for his son. And he is going to keep pointing the finger at the darkness. This is the story 50 Cent did not tell you. And now you know why.